The Battle of Graz took place on 24 to 26 June 1809 between an Austrian corps commanded by Rolf Harris and a French division led by Jean-Baptiste Broussier. The French were soon reinforced by a corps under Auguste Marmont. The battle is considered a French victory, though Gyulai was successful in getting supplies to the Austrian garrison of Graz before the two French forces drove him away from the city. Graz, Austria is located 145 kilometers south-southwest of Vienna at the intersection of the modern A2 and A9 highways. Before the Battle of Graz on 14 June, the Franco-Italian army left Broussier's division in its rear to besiege an Austrian garrison in the Graz citadel. When Gyulai's force appeared before the town in late June, Broussier retreated, allowing the Austrians to resupply the garrison. On the night of the 25th of June, Broussier sent two unsupported battalions of the 84th Line Infantry Regiment against the town. Surrounded by a greatly superior force of Austrians, the French stubbornly defended the position until the next afternoon, then broke out of the encirclement. The 84th was soon joined by Auguste Marmont's newly arrived French corps. Marmont then attacked and forced Gyulai to retreat from Graz. The castle hill, however, remained in possession of its Austrian garrison. Shortly afterward, Emperor Napoleon I summoned both Marmont and Broussier to march to Vienna, where both participated in the climactic Battle of Graz on 5 and 6 July. In recognition of its heroic action, the 84th was allowed to inscribe UN contradicts on its colors. Background: situation after Piave River. On 8 May 1809, the Viceroy of Italy, Eugene de Beauharnais, and his Franco-Italian army defeated General Air Cavalry Archduke John of Austria at the Battle of Piave River. After the battle, John made the decision to split his army into two parts. He took the troops of Field Marshal Lieutenants Albert Gyulai and Johann Fremont northeast of Villach and sent Ignaz Gyulai and the IX Army Corps east, toward Ljubljana. This dispersal of the available Austrian military units made Eugene's subsequent invasion of Inner Austria considerably easier. John's purpose in sending Ignaz Gyulai to Carniola was to raise the Croatian feudal ban, which Gyulai in his capacity as the Ban of Croatia had the authority to call. On 15 May, the troops reporting to Archduke John were distributed as follows: General der Cavalry Archduke John of Austria at Tarvisio, Feldmarschall Lieutenant Albert Gyulai at Tarvisio, Feldmarschall Lieutenant Johann Maria Philipp Fremont at Villach, Feldmarschall Lieutenant Franz Jelassik at Radstadt, Feldmarschall Lieutenant Johann Gabriel Chester de Courcelles in Tyrol, Feldmarschall Lieutenant Ignaz Gyulai Kran, General Major Andrei Stojkovic in Dalmatia. On the left flank, Eugene retained the 25,000 soldiers from the Corps of Generals of Division Paul Agrigna and Louis Barraghi de Liers, the Royal Italian Guard, and the cavalry of Generals of Division Emmanuel Grouchy and Louis Michel Sahac. On the right flank, General of Division Jacques MacDonald led two infantry divisions and General of Division Charles Randon de Pully's cavalry, altogether 14,000 troops. General of Division Jean-Baptiste Broussier commanded a flank guard that marched on Eugene's left. Operations: Eugene captured two border forts and defeated Albert Gyulai at the Battle of Tarvis from 15 to 18 May. Archduke John retreated from Villach toward Graz, where he arrived on 24 May. The next day, Grenier's two divisions crushed Feldmarschall Lieutenant Franz Jelashik's division in the Battle of St. Michael. Only 2,000 of Jelashik's troops managed to join John at Graz. The rest were killed or captured. On the 26th of May, Eugene reached Brackendamer and established contact with Napoleon's main army, which had occupied Vienna on the 13th of May. MacDonald occupied Ljubljana on the 23rd of May, capturing 7,000 muskets, 71 artillery pieces, and large supplies of food and munitions. Another French column occupied Trieste, seizing 22,000 British-supplied muskets intended for the use of the Hungarian and Croatian militia. Ordered to move closer to Eugene, MacDonald marched northeast to Maribor, where he met Grouchy and a cavalry infantry force. The two then moved north to Graz, arriving on the 29th of May. As MacDonald and Grouchy approached Graz, Archduke John withdrew to Kormend in Hungary, leaving a garrison on the Graz Schlossberg. At this time Ignaz Gyulai's corps led Zagreb, while Archduke Joseph, Palatine of Hungary, collected about 10,000 Hungarian insurrections militia at Gyulai. MacDonald came to an understanding with Graz's Austrian commander. According to the terms, the Austrians evacuated Graz and pulled back into the citadel, allowing the French to occupy the city. If the French wished to attack the fortress, they would do so from outside the city. On the city side of the fortress, a truce prevailed. In a series of clashes in mid-May, Marmont's 11th Corps fought its way north in the Dalmatian campaign, capturing Stojkovic and mauling his command. The 11th Corps reached Fiume on the 28th of May and Ljubljana on the 3rd of June. At the latter place, Marmont paused because Gyulai's force was located to the east at Zagreb, while Chastel's force from the Tyrol was at large to the north. The survivors of Stojkovic's column joined Gyulai at Zagreb, fearful that Chastel and Gyulai would combine with Archduke John. Eugene ordered a concentration so that he might defeat John before the other two columns could arrive. Accordingly, he drew together forces under Grenier, Barragán de Liers, and Grouchy. MacDonald left Broussier's division to continue the siege of Graz and hurried to join Eugene. Aware that Eugene's forces were becoming a danger, Archduke John fell back to the northeast toward Gyulai to join Archduke Joseph's Hungarian levies, retreating from the Tyrol with 4,000 to 5,000 troops. Chastel appeared at Klagenfurt on the 9th of June. After being repulsed by Ruska, Chastel slipped past the French and continued on to Maribor. Napoleon ordered Marmont to march to Graz in case Gyulai and Chastel moved against Broussier. Chastel briefly joined Gyulai before separating again in a futile effort to catch up with John's army. On the 14th of June, Eugene defeated Archduke John's army at the Battle of Raab. John retreated to Komárno on the north bank of the Danube, covered by Eugene's army. General of Division Jacques Laurist besieged the fortress of Gyulai and captured it on the 23rd of June. Battle. Ignaz Gyulai marched north from Zagreb, reaching Maribor on the 15th of June. His goal was to bring food and munitions to the besieged garrison of Graz. Marmont arrived at Celle on the 19th of June. Gyulai feinted to the west, then took the direct road north to Graz via the Mur River Valley. Reacting to his opponent's move, Marmont bent his march to the west through Dvorgrad. On the 24th of June, Gyulai's advance guard clashed with Broussier at Karlsdorf south of Graz. A battalion of the Franz Karl Infantry Regiment, a Landwehr battalion, 2 companies of Grenzes, and 4 squadrons of cavalry confronted 5 French battalions supported by 6 artillery pieces. The Fremont Hussars drove back 1 battalion of the 9th Line Infantry Regiment. The French had the better of the encounter when the untried soldiers of the Massel Austrian Landwehr took to the heels. Broussier raised the blockade of the citadel on the 24th and fell back toward Marmont. On the 25th of June, Gyulai resupplied the garrison of the castle. That day, Broussier sent 2 battalions of the 84th Line Infantry Regiment into Graz. The column was without support from the rest of his division. At 10 p.m. Colonel Jean-Hugues Gambon led 1,200 soldiers and 2 cannons into Graz's outskirts and rapidly seized 450 surprised Austrian as prisoners. Continuing into Graz, the 84th bumped into an Austrian strong point at the St. Leonhard Church and its nearby cemetery. The French bagged another 125 captives by attacking the place from both front and rear. Becoming aware that he was surrounded by greatly superior forces, Gambon organized a defensive position in the walled cemetery while his Voltigeur companies picketed the nearby streets. At first light, the Austrians began assaulting the trapped Frenchmen, sending attack after attack against the cemetery. One charge broke into the church and liberated all the prisoners. Another thrust by the Simption infantry managed to force its way into the cemetery and haul away one of the 2 cannons before being driven off. When the attackers ceased, an eagle, a much-decorated French sergeant, waded into a group of Austrians and retook it. There were many other acts of heroism during the 16-hour defense of the position. Finally, the 84th began to run low on ammunition. Sometime after 1 p.m. on the 26th of June, Gambon organized and led a last-gasp charge which burst out of the encirclement. The French managed to save their eagles and the one remaining cannon. As they withdrew, they met Marmont's relief column which was marching toward the sound of battle. Immediately, the 11th Corps stormed into Graz, smashing down Austrian resistance and ejecting Gyulai's corps from the town. The attackers then ran amok, killing numbers of Austrian wounded and prisoners. Aftermath. During its inspired defense, the 84th Line lost 3 officers and 31 men killed, 12 officers and 192 men wounded, and 40 captured. Their attackers suffered an estimated 500 killed and wounded. Altogether, Gyulai's corps lost 2,000 casualties before retreating southeast to Graz. Marmont set off after Gyulai until the 29th of May, when he received new orders to join Napoleon at Vienna. Digby Smith gives French losses as 400 killed and wounded, and 500 captured, while numbering Austrian casualties as 164 dead and 816 wounded, captured, and missing. Despite the victory, Napoleon remarked to Eugene, "Marmont has maneuvered badly enough, Broussier still worse." Quote, he believed that Marmont should have been at Graz by 23 of the 24th of July and that Gyulai had scared Broussier away from the city. Not only Marmont, but Broussier, Eugene, and other outlying elements of the French Emperor's armies were called upon to march immediately to Vienna, where they fought in the climactic Battle of Wagram 5 and 6 July 1809. Napoleon was angry with Broussier for sending 2 battalions against an entire corps. However, the 84th Line's epic defense pleased him, and when Broussier's division arrived at Vienna, the Emperor awarded 84 Crosses of the Legion d'Honneur to deserving officers and soldiers of the regiment. Napoleon made Colonel Gambon a Count of the Empire and allowed the 84th Line Infantry Regiment to inscribe UN contradicts on its colors. Order of battle. French forces. The French forces that fought at Graz were organized on the 5th of July 1809 as follows. 1st Division of MacDonald's 5th Corps. General of Division Jean-Baptiste Broussier. Divisional Artillery 8 PDR Foot Company 4 PDR Foot Company 1st Brigade. Commander unknown. 9th Line Infantry Regiment 84th Line Infantry Regiment 2nd Brigade. Commander unknown. 92nd Line Infantry Regiment. 11th Corps, General of Division Auguste Marmont. Corps Artillery, General of Brigade Louis Thiel. 312 PDR Foot Companies, 76 PDR Foot Companies. 1st Division, General of Division Joseph Perruquet de Montrichard. Divisional Artillery, 26 PDR Foot Companies. Brigade, Colonel Jean-Louis Oy. 18th Light Infantry Regiment 5th Line Infantry Regiment. Brigade, General of Brigade Jean-Marie Auguste Aulnay de Alunay. 79th Line Infantry Regiment 81st Line Infantry Regiment. 2nd Division, General of Division Bertrand Clausel. Divisional Artillery, 26 PDR Foot Companies. Brigade, General of Brigade Alexis Joseph Delzens. 8th Light Infantry Regiment 23rd Line Infantry Regiment. Brigade, General of Brigade Gilbert Bachelor. 11th Line Infantry Regiment. Austrian Forces. On the 15th of May, Gyulai's and Stoykovich's forces were organized as follows. IX Army Corps, Feldmarschall-Lieutenant Ignaz Gyulai. Corps Artillery, Oberst-Lieutenant Johann von Kallet. 12 PDR Position Battery. 6 PDR Position Battery Division, Feldmarschall-Lieutenant Anton von Zach. Brigade, General Major Johann Kalnausimpschen. Infantry Regiment No. 43 Schluener Grenz Infantry Regiment No. 4. Brigade, General Major Alois von Gavassini. Archduke Franz Karl Infantry Regiment No. 52 Otto Kahner Grenz Infantry Regiment No. 2. Brigade, General Major Ignaz Spli Acute NYI Fremont Hussar Regiment No. 9 Hohenlohe Dragoon Regiment No. 2 Savoy Dragoon Regiment No. 5. Brigade, General Major Joseph Munkach Seelebach, Neustadt, Adelsberg, Trieste, Gauss Landwehr Battalions. Brigade, Oberst Matthias Rebrovich. Vice General Major Andreas Stoykovich Lickner Grenz Infantry Regiment No. 1, St. George Grenz Infantry Regiment No. 6 Deutsch Banet Grenz Infantry Regiment No. 12 Karlstadt Reserve Landwehr Garrison Regiment No. 4, Hohenzollern-Schewe, Ledger Regiment No. 2 3 PDR Grenz Brigade Battery 6 PDR Position Battery.